Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eliana and I'm a certified success coach. Here with me today I've got Dr. Penn. Hi and welcome, a psychologist and also my husband. Today's talk is on motivation, how to find it and also keep it. How often have you heard yourself say, I'll get up in the morning first thing and I'll get started either going to the gym or maybe studying or reading or doing the task you've been putting off for a while, and it actually doesn't happen. Motivation is what drives us to keep going forward with our goals as well. But sometimes it's really hard and difficult, and I get it, I've been there too. You're not the only one that has suffered from this. Some of the time we've all gone through this period. So what is motivation? Why is it so hard to keep motivated?
Well, I think it's because partly people think of motivation as something which just sort of strikes and happens to them, but it's this mythical thing out there that occasionally is with you and occasionally against you. But actually it's something you can command by the way you reinforce your behaviour. So in psychology we often refer to positive and negative reinforcement. And positive reinforcement is just something where you reward a particular behaviour. And obviously what you want to do is reward behaviours that contribute to the desired goal. Now, some people also think of things negatively in terms of, well, if I don't do this behaviour, then this horrible thing will happen, therefore I'd better get on with it.
Like if I don't study, I'll fail my course, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you think that would work, but the problem is, what that negative reinforcement works by kind of helping you to avoid a punishment. So, for example, in your example, it would be the shame or the disappointment associated with failure. But from a young age, we become very sneaky about avoiding, getting out of punishments, as it were. So what we often say in psychology is it's usually much better to positively reinforce a behaviour than it is to start thinking about, negative reinforcement and avoiding the punishment associated with not doing that behaviour.
The negative motivation, as it were, it can backfire on you, can't it?
Yeah, well, once you start thinking about, in the exam example, failure and that, then you can start going into quite a negative kind of thought spiral where you think, oh God, wouldn't it be terrible? And, if I didn't have to do this exam, I wouldn't have to expose myself to these risks. And it will kind of probably sour you against the process rather than encouraging you to pick up your books and, get to it.
Great, thank you. Well, in this video we're going to share with you 5 tips on how to find motivation and also keep it. Let's get started.
So Eliana, in your experience as a coach, what are the kind of main villains of the piece when it comes to motivation, i.e. the motivation killers? Psychological research would suggest it's things like boredom, so when people find a task really monotonous, frustration, so when people find a task difficult to deal with and don't perceive themselves to be very effective at it. And also resentment, i.e. when people didn't want to do something in the first place and feel compelled to do it. What's your experience as a coach? What are the big villains of the piece when it comes to motivation?
So tip number 1 would be to choose goals that interest you. You're much more likely to succeed and stay motivated if it's something that you're genuinely interested in pursuing rather than what other people have chosen for you. Another point on this would be to not mimic your friends. Just because they've chosen a goal doesn't mean the same goal is right for you as well. Instead, choose something that you are passionate about. This is going to really help give you a sense of purpose and going to keep you motivated for longer as well so you can achieve your goals.
Psychologists would often advise clients that when they have a big task to do, the first thing they should get to is, if you like, breaking that task down into smaller, more manageable chunks. How would you advise a client to go about that process?
Tip number 2 would be to journal your thoughts down on paper. That's going to give you the clarity that you need instead of having all those thoughts ruminating in your head and you feeling so overwhelmed that you stop on doing the task and basically you lose that motivation. So in order to gain the motivation back is write everything down, prioritize what you need to be doing, pick 2 or maximum 3 of those tasks to accomplish during the day, and guess what? The motivation will most definitely be there when you know you need to achieve 2 or 3 things during the day.
So you hear a lot of talk about mindset these days, and particularly when it comes to motivation, one of the impediments that people staying motivated is perhaps the way they talk to themselves or the way they reflect on things when things aren't going so well. Is that something a coach would endorse?
Well, guess what? A negative mindset can suck up all the energy that we need in order to stay motivated, stay focused and achieve success. So tip number 3 is all about shifting that perspective by using positive affirmations daily, in the morning, in the evening, during the day, wherever you can instill more positivity in your life, the better it's going to be, and the more they're going to contribute towards you keeping that motivation, so obviously you can achieve success.
As a psychologist, I always find it interesting that people seem to speak of motivation as if it kind of had nothing really to do with them. It's just a force that's out there, and sometimes you can tap into it, and other times, you know, no matter what you do, it just seems to elude you. And one of the things we always say in psychology is think of motivation as a product of the things you're doing to try and achieve a task. So if you're behaving in an effective way and you're doing something you're interested in, that's where motivation comes from. It's not just something that happens to you. So how do you kind of describe motivation to a client as a coach?
Motivation involves a biological, emotional and cognitive forces that activate behavior. However, motivation isn't the only way that we can succeed out there. We can also succeed by taking small, consistent steps, which is obviously called discipline in another way, in order for us to succeed. Productive people out there don't just wait for motivation to come, they take action. It's a similar sort of way if saying appetite comes with eating, motivation comes with doing. In this way, is start taking those actions, focus on the journey, focus on the enjoyment side of it, and then motivation will definitely come.
So one of the things that's come from psychology is it's a person's perception of the likelihood they're going to be able to get something done that often is a big determinant of whether they stay motivated and on task. But of course there are a number of ways you can fiddle your perception of how likely you are to be able to achieve something. And one of those is to think about using resources around you. So as a coach, what kind of resources do you advocate people use to increase the likelihood they'll stay motivated?
Well, sometimes it can be really hard to stay motivated, especially when a task is really challenging. So a support network around you is so important to succeed at this. So tip number 5 would be don't do it alone. If you've tried and you've failed at the motivation part, maybe it's time you talk to someone. So talk to your friends, your partner, maybe find yourself a coach or a mentor that's really going to help you with accountability. And when you're accountable to someone else, you're much more likely to stay motivated and succeed at your goals that you've set for yourself. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I'll also link Paul's details below too. And if you think you might need some help with your motivation, I can offer a free 20 minutes consultation. You'll find details in the description below. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.